Hey guys, welcome back. So lately, South Africa has been in the news lately, and the reason why it's been in the news is because the country has more or less erupted in massive riots and lootings and things of that nature. It's just a serious situation there in South Africa, at least in some parts of the country. It's not completely in all parts of the country. But in a lot of the video footage that comes out, people may notice, and I figured it would be a good time to talk about one of my favorite non-lethal, if you will, tools to have is the Sjambok. And that is more or less a whip that is, like I said, if you see a lot of riot footage from South Africa, you may notice some guys carrying a long whip-looking thing, and that those are Shamboks. It's kind of it's been known to be, or it's kind of South Africa pretty much put these things on the map, even though I think they initially came from Malaysia, but the South African police have been carrying these things for a lot of years, and I think it's pretty much official police issue to have some form of Sjambok, and they use those in riot control. And it's more or less a whip. I think originally it was designed to be a cattle whip, if you will, and or a people whip, because I believe it originally came over when South Africa imported a lot of Malaysian slaves. But in either event, this thing is a serious welt maker. I use it primarily for dog control, meaning not for my dog, but when I go for walks around the neighborhood. Just about every street on my neighborhood has a dog, and not all of them are always, kept in the yard. And sometimes we have dog issues. So if you don't want to be in a situation where you have to shoot a dog or stab a dog, I prefer to have some non-lethal option, and that is a Sjambok. And honestly, it comes in handy if you're worried about having to take on multiple people as well. These things are major welt makers. If I can kind of give an example here, it's pretty much, I didn't mean to hit the vehicle, but it's pretty much, you can see these are plastic and they have some flexibility. I believe the original ones were probably leather wrapped multiple times. However, the plastic versions of them are, and actually I think the South African police use a plastic version of it as well. These are about 42 inches long, and you see I have two of them here because I recently just got another one. The one without the lanyard attached was my original one, and the lanyard just broke off many years ago. These things were manufactured by a company called Cold Steel that also makes knives, and they are just an awesome self-protection tool for when you don't necessarily want to go lethal, but you want to have the ability to keep somebody off of you at a distance, and or be offensive at a decent distance as well. And it's not the same thing as having a club or a bat to where you stand a chance of seriously killing somebody. You get a good crack on somebody's head with a baseball bat, you may just go to jail for murder. Not to say you wouldn't go to jail for, unnecessarily whipping someone, but these are more welt makers. They pretty much will back anybody off. They hurt like all get off, but they're not necessarily lethal, meaning you'd have to put some serious effort into it to kill somebody with one of these things. So they're very cheap. I think they actually used to come in two versions as far as length is concerned, but I prefer the 42 inch. I'm not sure you can even find anything other than a 42 inch nowadays, and I think Cold Steel is probably one of the few American chances in America to actually get one is this version, which is the Cold Steel version. But they're called Sjamboks. You can check out the spelling in the video title. It's kind of a weird way to pronounce it. Or some people call them Sjambok, maybe another way of pronouncing it. It's an SJ, so I just call it a Sjambok, but it's a Sjambok is another way that I've heard it pronounced. But these things are awesome. They're serious welt makers. If you go for walks every day and you kind of want to carry yourself a stick that can take care of, stray dog attack and or, getting mugged or anything like that. And granted, the best option is always going to be a pistol or something in that nature. But if you want to keep it less than lethal, and you just want to kind of keep a good standoff distance, these things are awesome. I would also, if you get them, take the time to wave that thing around a little bit and get used to how it swings. Do some practice with it so you kind of have a good idea of how they operate. I've dealt with some other types of whip that if you're not careful, it'll come back and hit you as well. So the decent thing about a Sjambok is that it's got so much rigidity to it that you're not very likely to hurt yourself or hit yourself. All right, guys. So check out South Africa in the news because lots of crazy things are going on there. But if you happen to see some really crazy looking South African guy running around whipping another guy, that's typically what they're using is a Sjambok. All right, guys. Have a good one.